and welcome to this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is, of course, powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Joining me this week is Robin Pod regular Graham Turner, someone I'm sure you are very much used to. And we've got a debutant on the Robin Pod this week, Ben. First time on the Robin Pod. We've always said we want to get more and more people on here to talk about Hull Kingston Rovers and you know, the latest Robin Pod, and hopefully someone who's become a regular. But Ben, how did your love affair with Hull Kingston Rovers kick off?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Chris. I think my journey started about 11 years ago. We were just new to the city for about 5 years. We moved from Leconfield, and my brother Josh Guzdeck, he played for the academy, and sort of I just started going from there, really, and it's been a wonderful journey so far, barring that relegation scrap in the battle. Yeah,
what's been your highlight so far, Ben?
Moving to Hull, surely.
The way it is, I think going to Wembley. I didn't go to the Leeds game, which, to be fair, I was glad I missed, to be fair. But I did go to the league final, and even though we lost again, but it was a really good experience, I thought. But yeah, just turn up every home game as well. It's a pretty good experience, to be honest. Even for neutral fans, it's definitely a good rugby league experience if you want to come to Craven Park just to watch rugby, really.
Yeah, and Graham, I don't think I've had you on since the Challenge Cup semi-final. Any car updates?
Car wet's fine. We got there, enjoyed the experience, but yeah, we got beat, didn't we? Heavily. Came second. I think that's probably the best we can say.
Yeah, second in a 2-horse race.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look back to that Wigan game, of course, I mean, as good as Wigan was, it was very disappointing from a Robins perspective. And then we bounced back with a fantastic victory over London Broncos, 64 points to 14. I mean, Ben, 46 points to 0 at half-time. I mean, that was a red-hot Robins side on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I watched the game back on Monday, and, you know, as 𝗫𝗏𝗡𝗋 probably said in his post-match interview, it was definitely a game of two halves. But yeah, that 46-0 first half was just spectacular from Rovers.
Yeah, and there was a couple of changes to the lineup, wasn't there? Unexpectedly, we saw James Batchelor line up at centre. Tom Opacek missed out. His partner's, his wife is expecting a baby, and I think they just took him out the lineup in the eventual case that he might have to shoot off to hospital. So he missed out. Batchelor filled in for him. We saw a bench with King, Sam Luckley, Matty Staunton, and debutant Danny Richardson. I mean, Graham, when you look at the scoreline, you know, London, they've been put to the sword a number of times this season. We saw the Robins, you know, score plenty of points past them in the home game earlier on in the season. I suppose I did pose a question in last week's Robin Pod. This was almost a perfect game for the Robins on the back of that disappointing Challenge Cup exit.
Yeah, I asked the same question to a few pals of mine as well, John, around it being the perfect game, in the fact that if we weren't concentrating, if we weren't on our mettle, we've seen what happened the week before against the other side, where they got embarrassed by London legitimately as well, winning that game. So we didn't want to, you know, submit to the same fate there. So we had to be on it. We were sparkling in that first half. It was just one way, you know, completely one way traffic, which was good. So to get straight back on the horse after the semi-final, I think we just needed that shot in the arm to show that we are a good attacking side, albeit we didn't have much opportunity the week before. It gave us the perfect opportunity to get back on, score some points, get some confidence back in some players, if it was lacking in any way. And yeah, came away with I think what was expected victory, but the manner of that first half performance put all the previous week's ghosts to bed and showed me that we were focused on the task in hand, getting back to being what we needed to be, which was ruthless, which, yeah, as was said a minute or two back, it sort of dropped off in the second half in that game of two halves, which, listening back to what Willie Peters has said, was due for a couple of reasons, but personnel changes and tactical changes came into play there. So I think there was a bit of experimentation went on but some of that play in the first half was fantastic. Scoring tries all over the place, apart from Ryan Hall's wing.
Yeah. And Ben, was you like me? I mean, midway through that first half, I said to my mate Carl, who of course features on the Robin pod, this could be 100. The way the rate at which there was scoring and the pace there was attacking, and there was almost scoring at will. I genuinely thought this could have been triple figures on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Like Graham said, it was just one-way traffic. We completely dominated all areas of the field, the ruck, the wing play. But if you look at the second half, which we'll probably talk about later on, but the second half was like an 18-14 score, I think it was, if you look at just the second half alone. So like you say, we just won a complete perfect performance, which, we can't like criticise them too much, but, it's defending's going to be an issue when we're going to look at Lee and Huddersfield in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I suppose, Graham alluded to it, there was some mitigating circumstances, weren't there, in that second half. We saw Danny Richardson, he came on for Tyrone May after 54 minutes. They tried Dean Hadley back at loose forward for another spell. Niall Evalds, Jack Broadbent, they switched from fullback and centre. So, yeah, we had players playing in maybe unaccustomed positions, and Willie Peters wants that versatility in the side, so you can understand why he's done that, especially when the game was won by 40 minutes. There's no question of that. I suppose it's still disappointing though, isn't it, Graham, that there just seems to be that a little bit of an Achilles heel at the moment, don't they, where we're still conceding tries a little bit too softly. And Willie Peters again, saying about how the players have come away from what they expected or wanted to do, and it is disappointing that we did concede them tries in the manner of what we did.
Yeah, and I think when you sort of listen to coaches analyse a game, they'd have been more happy with a 0 at the other end of the scoreboard than they would be with the 64 points or 100 points on the board. I think that defensively, we've still got work to do. We know that, and if you look at the manner of which tries were scored, there was one directly from the scrum, and we got an advance warning of what was coming because the ref called it back and sort of got them to do it again. But they ran exactly the same move, and we didn't anticipate it. We weren't able to close it out and keep them out, and that gave them encouragement. And look, any team in Super League, no matter whether you're Wigan or London, at top or bottom of the table, you don't need any encouragement, because then they got a bit of ball in hand, they got a bit of play, and look, they scored 3 tries in honours, which I think is probably the most disappointing part. Which it sounds really daft to say, as Ben was saying there, when you've come away with a handsome victory and scored 64 points, you're not happy. But I think players, coaching staff will be disappointed with some of the defensive plays that let them in, and some of the decisions made that led to those tries.
Yeah, I suppose that's levels in it, Ben. Now we've come away with 11 tries, 10 conversions, but there's still just a little bit of disappointment that we did concede the tries that we did. And I suppose it's not just the players' expectations that have raised, it's us as supporters as well. I suppose we're expecting the side to be near perfect every game, which of course it's not going to be, and it is still a work in progress, isn't it? That's what Willie Peters has said to us plenty of times, and we can see that in terms of the player rotations, in terms of players coming in and out of the side. So, yeah, it's still work in progress. And like Graham said, we're probably, or Willie Peters would have been far more happier with if they kept it to 0. It's funny though, Ben, I bet if you ask the kids who were on the terrace, they were baying for points, weren't they? And they'd like to have seen a few more points on the board.
Yeah, definitely. There's loads of ways you can look at it, Chris. It's you got the fact that, like Graham was saying, it's the defensive capabilities were tested in the second half, but it was, I think we all knew it was written in the stars before the game started that we was going to probably get the 2 points at London. So with Willie Peters taking a bit of a risk, like experimenting with the side, as Graham said, we could just show what we were made of, really. I guess we're all hoping for 10 out of 10 performances, but I could still give about 8 or 9-ish. It was just a defence, really. It just looked a bit of concern.
Yeah, what did you make? I mean, you've just said there about some of the changes, and what did you make of Danny Richardson coming on for his debut?
Yeah, I noticed it came on last 20 minutes. I know Mike gave him a kicking in the game, which is nice of him to do. But I just didn't really see enough of him, to be honest. I didn't think 20 minutes was enough for a debut for an halfback, and especially where we sort of took our foot off the gas in the second half in that sort of sense. So it'd be nice to see him get a bit more game time in that sort of sense.
Yeah, I suppose though, Graham, that game time is going to be limited, isn't it? And unless something does happen to Tyrone May or Mikey Lewis, and I think it was important for him to get on the pitch and do it in a game. No disrespect to London, but in a game where there was every chance that the Robins were going to come away with a handsome victory. So it makes sense to put him on. Like Ben said, though, he didn't have the biggest impact in the game, but I suppose when you're making changes around personnel, and especially when you're in that pivot position, it's very hard for you to come in and really dominate. And let's not forget, he's been at the club a couple of weeks now, so he's still learning the ropes, he's still learning the plays. But albeit, it's important that he does get game time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't throw him in for 25 minutes in that particular game, if you're going to choose another time to do it, you're going to throw him in cold, because it means there's an injury or there's a suspension to Tyrone or to Mikey, because no doubt they're the first two choice halfbacks that we've got. But to give him 25 minutes and wasn't enough, as Ben alluded to, there wasn't enough time for him to get settled down. But I think, again, listening to what Willie Peters had to say, it was more about the communications, the organisations that he had, and if he was called upon, does he know all of that, and the players, etc. So, yeah, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you leave Tyrone on there's a risk he gets injured. There's no harm in swapping him over and giving him 25 minutes there. Didn't do anything wrong, didn't sparkle either way, but at least it got him playing, got him in the shirt, got him in the organisation of the people around him. So yeah, it was what it was. It achieved a few things, I'm sure, on Willie Peters' checklist, without it being a huge impact that you expect when subs come on. But it is what it is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, talking of opportunity, Ben, we saw, like we've already mentioned, James Batchel line up in the absence of 𝗂𝗂𝗡𝗂 𝗂𝗂. Last week we saw the good news that Louis Gorman's been offered a new 3-year deal with the Robins. Was this a game maybe where you'd like to have seen Conor Barley or Louis Gorman feature in the side?
Yeah, it was just like, as I touched on earlier, about with it being rated stars, with, like you said, no disrespect to London, so you can afford them sort of big experiments. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame that the likes of Gorman and Barley didn't get a bit of game time with that. But yeah, with no cup final to look forward to this year, or even then with the cup games we had before, and that would have been an opportunity for him to play as well. So it's been missed opportunities for him, I think. So maybe loan spells might be the way forward for them in terms of game time.
Yeah. Was you surprised, Graham? I mean, it'd have been perfect time, wouldn't it, fresh from a 3-year deal, especially for Gorman, to get out on the pitch and really show the Robins supporters what he can do. Of course, he's featured for Featherstone on loan this season, and he's played in the reserves. But when they make announcements like a 3-year deal and the sort of putting the hopes on him, it'd have been great to then follow that up with some minutes on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could have been done in a tactical way again, 20, 25 minutes again, drip feeding the Super League experience into him on the back of that announcement of the new deal. So, yeah, I'd go with that. I think that could have been an opportunity, but look, we're not sat picking the team with the coaching staff, and they pick the right team for what they see fit, and development of players, young players is obviously one of Willie Peters' strengths, I think, and I'm sure he'll introduce him at the right time when he sees fit to do so. Yeah,
and we saw Jack Brown omitted from the squad, so I suppose you can get a bit more of a steer now, Ben, can't you, on the pecking order in terms of the forwards. We saw George King, Sam Luckley, and Matty Staunton on the bench, Jesse Sue and Jai Whitbread with the starting props. I think we can see a bit of a pecking order now, can't we, in terms of the forwards?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to see that it's not been any big injuries at this sort of stage of the season. So it's great that we still have that depth, like you say. So it'd be interesting to see who comes in and who misses out, really. Which I think it's a good guessing game for any support at the minute, which is a gift and a curse in that sort of sense.
Yeah, and Graham, I mean, that game, 11 tries, has put us top of the try scorers list in Super League. I mean, we'll call the entertainers for a reason.
Yeah, I think, look, I'd prefer it if we were playing that well in the big games rather than the dead rubbers, and scoring the calibre of tries that we did against the Wigan Saints and Warringtons. Now, appreciate we did that a few weeks ago against Wigan and Saints back-to-back, but in the most recent game against Wigan, the trip to Warrington, we were short on the trip to Cats. So I think, yeah, it's a game that you have to play. It's a game that you're expected to win, and we did, and we won it handsomely. But those aren't necessarily the games that are going to define our season. We have to be better, and I know we've talked about it before on this podcast, and I know there's been a lot of comments on the back of it about being able to go away on a Friday night to Warrington or to Saints, wherever, and come back down the M62 with those 2 points. They're the games that are going to define your season, not a 64-14 drubbing of London.
Yeah, and Bazza, he is right. He's put, not sure if I'm right, but that's the first time we've won outside of Yorkshire since February 2022.
I'm going to challenge that unless Salford play out in Yorkshire now. Second game of last season. We went away.
That was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we went away then in February 23, I believe. Frankie Holton might have scored for us, or Jordan Abdul.
I think he's got his twos and his threes mixed up.
Yeah, double check it, Bazza. I'm no stato myself, but I seem to think we went away second game of the season after a game against Wigan at home. We went away to Salford and turned them over 23-10, 16, something like that, maybe.
Yeah,
you're right, Graham. Ben, now people who follow you on TikTok will be very familiar with your vlogs that you're doing, racking up some great numbers with them.
Just for all the older viewers, John, is it?
I was just going to ask Graham if you've got a TikTok account.
What's a TikTok?
But no, Ben, just tell us a bit more about them vlogs and how they came about and why you decided to start doing them.
Yeah, well, I was a bit late to the pie. I know a couple of my mates had it, and it's been out for a few years at this point. But I've been quite inspired by people like the 𝗫𝗏𝗁 who reviews hospitality packages to sports events, and the Yorkshireman who's a bit of a food journalist sort of thing. He reviews all the best places to eat and drink in Yorkshire and all that. So, having a look at what I really liked when I was younger, when I was watching a YouTuber called Spencer FC, who used to vlog his experiences going to West Ham. I thought it was a good opportunity to promote the game and vlog my experiences going to home and away games. Fair enough, I don't probably make it to all of them because for money reasons or other commitments or what have you. But it's been, like I say, it's been well received. I've got just hit over 500 followers and got over 100,000 views altogether. So it's definitely a good market at the minute for anyone who wants to get into rugby league on TikTok. But yeah, like I say, it's been mind blowing. I didn't expect those sorts of numbers. First season, I was averaging about 1,000, 2,000 views, and then this season it's gone up to like 3,000, 4,000 with the addition of where we went to Huddersfield away. I think that did really well. That got 8,000 views. But yeah, it's gone from as low as 1,000 to when I got the 13,000 views, which was unbelievable. That was from the semi-final against Wigan last year where we won. Thanks to Brad Schneider. So yeah, it's going really well. Yeah.
So people who are watching and listening, and Graham, Ben, where can people find the TikTok vlogs?
I'll keep an eye on. I'll try and share onto my Twitter. My last name's not very easy to spell. It's 𝗔𝗂𝗍𝗍𝗔𝗂𝗍𝗍. But yeah, it's Ben Gustek on TikTok. I'll try and find a better way to make the spelling a bit easier for you, so people can find it a bit easier. But even then, sorry.
I was going to say, Ben, of course, your most recent one was the game on Sunday against London. What did you make of the overall experience down in London?
Yeah, that got well received as well. I think that's just hit over 4,500 views. But yeah, the experience itself, it was probably a long day. It was my first trip to London, to be honest, but in terms of the Broncos. It was a long day in terms of it being the commuting. It was about 10 hours commuting altogether. And yeah, despite the fact they won a very busy stadium, which a few of me followers have picked up in the comments. They still pretty much enjoyed the vlog itself, and it was a good experience as well. Whether it wasn't too bad, either want it. And yeah, just looking forward to next away game, which I think is Castleford, which hopefully I'll go to. It's just depending on work and that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic, of course, result, and the day itself was great. I was saying to the people I was with, if you was going to design and build a Super League stadium, that is what you do. You'd build Wimbledon's stadium because it had perfect amount of room for people, mid-sized stadium. It had corporate facilities that, clubs would be able to expand on. They had like a little fan zone around the back of the stands where people could, the kids could go play. There was plenty of drinks and refreshments. It had its own little bar where people could go. For me, it was just a real positive experience. And the real shame for me, Graham, is that there's just not enough people from London going and watching the rugby league side. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's a tough sell, isn't it, when you're getting beat heavily, pretty much week in, week out. No matter how good the fan experience is, it's success and winning games which ultimately brings people to the table. So I get all that. It's just, like I say, it's a real shame that more people are going to watch it, and ultimately we're going to lose a decent experience for supporters. And the numbers who did travel down were absolutely fantastic. I think Willie Peters likened it to a home game. And it was rowdy, it was positive, it was sunny. All the ingredients for a good game and plenty of points. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, that more people just don't, for whatever reason, seem to be able to get behind London.
Yeah, and I think, look, we all know, and I'm sure listeners know as well, that rugby league is a fantastic sport to watch, talk about, spectate at, take part in. It's a hard selling. The RFL have been trying to drum away at London for years and years in various guises, haven't they, with the Broncos and Harlequins and etc., different grounds, and nothing's really ever stuck down there and really got any traction with it. It's always been linked, I think you're right, Jono, to the performances on the pitch, which when they've been in Super League, the crowds have grown a bit because there's a bit more interest, TV coverage, etc. When they've dropped back down again, as with anything, crowds drop away and go and find other interests and pastimes to spend the money on. So it is a hard sell. But you're right. I think the offer that is there is a good one. They just need to get the on the pitch stuff right. And with the structure of themselves and the way Super League is at the minute and it's going, it's almost like the Premier League in football, whereby the Man Cities of this world are getting stronger and better each year, and the Sheffield Uniteds of this world haven't got a chance of competing. So it's sort of heading that way, I think, with promoted teams. And look, we can do all we want in terms of promotion and of the game and throwing money at London, but if they just aren't into it, then they just aren't into it. There's umpteen rugby union clubs down there. There's umpteen football clubs down there. But again, we believe we've got a great sport to offer and a great spectacle to offer. But it's just a shame they don't just turn up. But like if that was up here, would we turn up to somebody who's watch somebody who's getting battered every week, or is that going on across the city? I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
If I can add to that as well, the pub we stopped at round the corner from the ground, there was a little kids team that were playing a rugby league tournament. I think I heard the coach saying that they was doing an under-8s to under-11s tournament. So I thought, on a positive note, it was quite pleasing to see that there is still rugby league existing in London. But like you touched on, Graham, it's the marketing in rugby league is just going to be very hard. Where you got in London, anyways, where you've got the likes of you've either Premiership teams and even Twickenham a few tube stops away. But it's promising for the future players of London that they've still got players going for the grassroots level.
Yeah, it's funny. We stayed in a hotel in central Wimbledon, which was about a mile away from the stadium. We've got talking to a few people who worked in the bars and all. Didn't even know the game was on. Didn't even know you wouldn't even have known it. And I suppose you've got to speculate to accumulate, and you've got to probably spend big on your marketing to try and entice people. But if people on your doorstep don't even know it's going on, then it's a difficult one, isn't it?
But I've heard that same comment, John, about Magic Weekend up in Newcastle, about local people and local taxi drivers not knowing that Magic Weekend was on and what was Magic Weekend all about. So I don't think it's unique to London. I think it's just the rugby league in general. We've got some work to do in selling our product to people to understand it and to encourage them to watch it and get involved in it.
Yeah, and it's funny as well, Ben, because if you the ground's a real blink and you miss it, isn't it? Because it's surrounded by flats. So if you go past it, other than seeing an AFC Wimbledon sign, you could easily miss it. It's quite clever how they've done it. I suppose the only negative though on the day was my halftime performance. If anyone was there, they'll have seen me having to try and knock 5 beer cans over with a rugby ball in direct competition with a London fan. Let's say I got 0 out of 5.
You came second on that. That's what it was.
Yeah, it might have provided entertainment for some people in terms of my missing, and that was probably the only low point of the day. But no, seriously, fantastic day out in London. Plenty of points scored. If you had your kids with you, they absolutely loved it because they just got to see point after point after point in the sunshine. So yeah, we'll see what happens with London in the future. We've talked about the London game, Graham. We've talked about the Wigan game, Challenge Cup semi-final, disappointing exit. Is Lee probably a good barometer of where the Robins are now?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a much tougher game than the one we saw on Sunday. We know Lee play expansive rugby. They shift the ball really, really well. And if we're not on it defensively on Saturday evening, we could get turned over if we're not careful.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, we've already beaten Lee 26 points to 14 at home this season already. Lee are coming into this game on the back of 2 victories. The last one was a 16 points to 10 victory over Huddersfield. Previous to that, they defeated Salford 40 points to 12. They currently occupy 9th place in the table, which is maybe a little bit false, isn't it, when you consider the horrendous injury record that they've had at the start of the season. I think at some point, at most points this season already, at least, all their Super League Dream Team players have been missing. They look like they've hit a little bit of form. It's promising to be an exciting encounter, Ben, but I think, like Graham said, it's going to be a tricky one. Yeah,
definitely now with that 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗏 coming back, I've noticed since his first game back against Salford, their rhythm and the pace have come back, and they're looking quite dangerous as they were last year. But yeah, we've done quite well against them early in the season. That was a comfortable victory, and like I said, they've had injuries, but with 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗏 being back, I could still probably see us win, but not as marginally as we did before. So it will be a tricky one, like you say.
Yeah, the squad news is out, Graham. It's the same 21-man squad that was named for the London Broncos fixture. Oliver Gildart and Burgess, they're still missing. Gildart, of course, we know he was a bit of a longer-term injury. Willie Peters has said that he's penciled in to return against Castleford when we play them away. Burgess, he's just having another week out due to a HIA injury. So he'll be back for the following week. Squad-wise and team-wise, obviously it's dependent, maybe, Graham, on what's happening with 𝗂𝗏 and whether he's missing again. If not, you'd expect him to maybe slot in for 𝗏𝗏𝗏, then 𝗏𝗏𝗏 reverts back to the second row. You imagine Danny Richardson won't be featured on the bench, and of course we've got Jez Litton to feature in that. So there's going to be a few changes on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see 𝗂𝘂𝗍𝘆 Lytton back, and I think in the chat there, just looking, Baz has just said the same point as well. So I think Lytton's was rested on Sunday's game, quite rightly, because he's put a lot of work in. So I think we'll see 𝗂𝘂𝗍 back in. I think he'll retain that Parcell and Lytton combo as well. But yeah, there's going to be a few interesting discussions as to who comes in, goes out, etc. To make up the squad. You aren't going to change it too much, I don't think, in terms of the personnel on the field. But I think the tactics and the positional opportunity, I think he'll put more round pegs in the round holes this time, rather than asking people to sort of play too much out of position.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, the supporters were singing his name. He scored 2 tries. Great to see him back. Sam Luckley. I mean, he seems like a player who's very much a Willie Peters' favourite. You'd expect him to retain his place on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. He's been one of my signings, best signings so far. It's been really good, a proper powerhouse. I hope he starts along with King. To be fair, with the forwards we played against London, I expect them to be back, really. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, there is a few, obviously we don't know what the situation is around a few players, but with Lytton coming back in, it looks like, potentially 2 from King, Luckley, Staunton and Richardson a drop out, let alone whether he decides to put Brown into the mix. We saw he's quite a mobile pack against London, wasn't it? And don't get me wrong, it wasn't the toughest opposition necessarily, but they very much did a number, and whether Willie Peters then decides to change it for the Leigh Leopards game. Elisa, that won't be featuring Robin Mulhern. He's already been ruled out as we record this. We haven't got the Leopards team news. Robin Mulhern's been in fantastic form for Leigh this season, so good to see that he's not playing, because he's definitely a threat. Like Graham said, Ben, this Leigh Leopards side, it's going to be a side that poses questions, isn't it? And like we've already said, that 9th position probably doesn't do them justice at the moment. Coming to the game on the back of 2 victories, they'll be smarting after their early season start, but they've got a chance to put a real mark on the board by beating the Robins if they manage to do that. But we've been so good at home, haven't we, Ben? And the players, Willie Peters, just seem to thrive off the energy that Craven Park creates.
Yeah, like as we touched upon, it'll be a massive test. Like you say, like pretty much echo everything you've been saying, really. Leigh coming to form, that don't do him justice. It'll be a really good test for us in that sort of sense. You look at Huddersfield as well. In the week after, they're sort of coming back into form a little bit since that big Leeds win. Bit good, gonna be up or down. So even then, the next couple of weeks will be a massive test for us. It just shows where we are. It's just really. When we go away to say like Wigan and Saints, really, they I think should solidify us as a top side if we can do that away from home, really.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a little bit of a moniker that's been put onto the Robins at the moment, Graham, by some people, that Rovers are sort of the best of the rest. So if you take away, Saints, Wigan, Catalan, maybe Warrington, Rovers are the next of the best. And if you remember last season, I think we were in an almost similar position after the same number of games. Following that, though, we went on a horrendous record, didn't we? I think we lost 4 or 5 on the trot. I suppose these next 5-6 games is where it really counts, isn't it, for the Robins, because we can't afford to be going into the second third of the season and suffering the run of results we did last year, because albeit, yes, we got into the playoffs come the end of the season, it did leave us a lot of chasing to do come the back end.
Yeah, I think it was May. Was it May? We had a horrendous May, something like that, last year. But I think we've just come out of that block of 5 games that Peter's identified as a challenging block, where we played Wigan twice, we had Saints, Warrington, Cats in there as well. So that, and we've come out sort of average, I guess. We've won a couple, 1-2, lost 3. This next block of games is equally as important, even though on the league table the opposition are below us and in and around us, these are the games where we're expected to win because of the league positioning and that tag that you just alluded to there, John. So again, Huddersfield, Leigh, Castleford coming into a bit of a result, getting a couple of results nowadays. So again, these games aren't going to be easy ones. So we have to again be back on it, back into the start of the season that set us up so nicely with the attitudes and effort areas that were very, very good at the beginning. We need to get back to those for this next block of games as well, because we could quite easily slip up against Leigh, Huddersfield, Castleford if we're not careful.
Yeah, so handily placed. I mean, we're talking about how the team responded to that defeat against Wigan. One player who probably didn't have most people agree probably didn't have the best game was 𝗓𝗡𝗋𝗄𝗋 Wigan. I mean, he was red hot against London, 4 try assists and 2 tries for himself. He's now the top assist maker in Super League with 15. Interestingly, Mikey Lewis, he's up there with 12 assists as well. But 𝗓𝗡𝗋𝗄𝗋, he's he had an off game against Wigan, but he's been so crucial to the Robins' success so far this season, Graham.
Yeah, and I think if you look at that, he's been playing full back and he's so dangerous when he comes into that line. And I don't think it's any surprise whatsoever with the pace he's got that he is creating opportunities for others, and no surprise to see him at the top. My only worry is that if he does get moved over to the wing, that he becomes less effective in terms of that creation. He's then purely down to be a scorer of tries rather than a creator, and which is the best position for him. So yeah, I think he's proved a lot of people, I won't say wrong, but a few people have been surprised in the quality that we have got with him. And as long as we can keep him injury free, I think we're seeing what he can do now and the benefit to the team of not just assisting tries, but he also scores his fair share as well. If we can keep him fit, playing well, which has been an Achilles heel of him with his injuries, certainly at Castleford, I think we can get the best out of him here, and obviously that's going to benefit the team. But my fear is if he does assume a wing position, that he becomes less effective because he's then reliant on what's going on inside of him rather than having that creativity and license to roam when he comes in from fullback. Yeah,
he's definitely he can definitely finish a try, but he looks very much like he's reveling in the creator mode, and like you say, that ability for him to be able to pop in the line at different places, different times, is playing dividends for us at the moment. Ben, who's been the standout player for you so far this season?
Pretty tough call, really, because there's been quite a few good performances, even from the new signings, really. Like you say, probably 𝗓𝗡𝗋𝗄𝗋 is probably one of mine at the minute. Tyrone May, I think he's been a bit up and down, to be honest. I know a few people might disagree with me with that. Who else we've got? Whitbread's been pretty consistent. I think we haven't seen much Jack Brown yet or Danny Richardson yet, obviously because they're quite fresh new signings. But it's been really pleasing. Oliver Gildart as well, that just brought to mind as well. He's had a really terrific start. It's just a shame he's been missing the last few weeks. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him return, because I thought even when his Wigan days or even when it was in the NRL, he's been probably one of the best players on the field, really.
Yeah, definitely. And when you factor in that Gildart, Burgess and 𝗓𝗡𝗋𝗄𝗋 we're all missing from that London game, it shows that there is some strength in depth. Graham, what have you made of Jack Broadbent since he's came in?
Yeah, he's made an impact on the try scoring charts, hasn't he? Has he got 3 now? 3 or 4 in his first few games, so he's getting off on the right footing with the fans. I think he's going to be again a good solid acquisition to us. Again, just questions about which position is his best position or favoured position. He's been played in at centre, but I think Peter's wanted to try him at full back on Sunday for potential cover, I guess, if we ever needed it. So I think again, like Ben said there, all the signs that we've made so far that we've retained have made a positive impact and are pushing hard to get the 17, in the 17 jerseys each week. So long may it continue. And then there's those that are knocking around behind them to force their win after being within the 21 to get into that 17. So I think there's some healthy competition brewing as well.
Yeah, just to add to that as well with 𝗕𝗂𝗱𝗴𝗏, I think we all can all agree he had a bit of a poor start, didn't he, when he was being put at fullback. But since him and that 𝗬𝗆𝗆 to swap positions, it's brought us up another level in that sort of sense. Even though it was just stating the obvious that they just need to play in their preferred positions. But despite of 𝗕𝗂𝗱𝗏's defence sometimes, he can no doubt he's one of them definitely names on the sheets that's going to score every week.
Yeah, and long may that continue, especially on Saturday. So remember, if you are going to the game, be loud and be proud and back the boys. Hopefully, as I look out the window and I see it absolutely chucking it down, the sun will be kind, or the weather will be kind to us this weekend. We'll be able to enjoy Craven Street in the sunshine. On the back of that good result against London, Graham, more good news if you like a trip to Amsterdam, because the Robins announced the Amsterdam Challenge. I was very fortunate enough to be invited to the launch event, and I must say I was very impressed with what the club are trying to achieve with this. I suppose, Graham, when you look at it, York, a friendly against York in January is a pretty standard fixture. We wouldn't have been surprised if they'd announced that and it'd have been at York or Craven Park. But what they've done is reimagine just a run-of-the-mill friendly game and made it into something, made it exciting. And they've done that on the basis of signing up to play more fixtures in Amsterdam. So, what's your thoughts? Are you excited about a trip to The Hague?
Yeah, I think this is one where, look, a pre-season friendly is a pre-season friendly wherever you go. So I can't imagine it being a full-strength squad that's turning out there and there'll be cameo 20 minutes for people. But the principle of it, I think, is a good idea in terms of wanting to expand the game. And I know the community team at the foundation there have been historically doing some work over there to spread the word and encourage more people playing rugby. And I think that's that sort of talk about London and the comparison where there's been steady growth in the participation in the Netherlands. So hopefully that can bear fruit for future opportunities. But again, just spreading the brand and without sort of directly relating too much to football. But you look at what football clubs are doing to reach bigger fan bases, wider audiences. This I think is a good idea. It's sort of on our doorstep from Hull. Just going back to one of the questions in the chat early doors, I think this was probably in conjunction with the P&O deal that's since been reversed on. It's got all the makings of a link up with that opportunity, but that's been well publicised and not happening now. But I think the opportunity for fans to go over and experience, potentially a long weekend in Amsterdam is appealing. And if you think of how, again, going back to Magic Weekend, where it's been stripped back to Elland Road, how many fans are going to make a weekend of it from going from Hull to Leeds? A few might, but whereas when it was in Cardiff perhaps or Newcastle, there might have been more appetite to make a weekend of it. So again, like with Catalans away, I know many fans sort of look at that in the calendar and make a specific trip around it. There might be a bit of difference between Holland in the middle of January and Perpignan in the middle of July in terms of the weather. But I think the experience that I've heard and read about is all geared up towards a fan experience as well. So yeah, it should be good for travelling fans. It should be good for encouraging locals to get involved, and hopefully the link up with the the governing body over there will drum up of local interest in there to make it a full stadium experience, and then add to the whole atmosphere of it. So yeah, I think it's got many positives. It's going to be a good opportunity to blow a few cobwebs out after a pre-season camp and get ready for the season a few weeks later. From a fan's perspective, it's sort of in that middle period of we've got Christmas and New Year out the way with, but we've still got 6 weeks to wait till rugby season starts properly. So I think it's positioned nicely in there to whet the appetite of the fans to to get back into the rugby come sort of early to mid-February again. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think there's been a few questions and queries about the cost of the packages that are available and whether it's sort of priced out of many fans' budgets, but fans will decide whether they want to go or not. And there's other ways to travel over there, as I'm sure many fans have already worked out.
Yeah, the game's taking place on the 25th of January at the NCRA Stadium. It's got a capacity of 5,000. It's a joint stadium, so they share it with Rugby Union and Rugby League. And like Graham said, the 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏 Foundation have already been out there doing a work on the ground in terms of delivering Rugby League in a number of cities in Holland. So it's it's not just this in isolation. There's been work going on behind it. It's an exciting prospect, isn't it, to travel over to Holland? And like we mentioned at the press conference, the one thing, Ben, is that after that that gap between the end of this season and the start of next season, especially Rovers, we are desperate just to watch any kind of rugby league. We just want to see a game. So the fact that this game's taking place in Holland just makes it that little bit more attractive. And like Paul Aiken said at the press conference, this isn't a new concept. This is what Premier League clubs are doing. This is what some rugby league clubs are doing, and it's a way of growing the brand. And I think that's one thing that came across, Ben, very clear, was that this is very much about growing the brand of Hull Kingston Rovers, taking it to a new market. Yes, the hope that some players might eventually come to fruition from Holland. It's slightly different to the link up we've got with Port Moresby Vipers, where it's directly about bringing players in. But when we're playing a game which is very limited in terms of funding and the ability to attract major investment, it's things like this that hopefully will start to bear fruits, in the short term, but long term as well.
Yeah, I think like when you look at the Wigan against Warrington game in Barcelona at the Barcelona Stadium, that pretty much the fire that the spark that started this fire of expanding rugby league in big major cities and countries. You look at Vegas, it just happened. We know how good that went and how well received it was by the fans. And then you look at us, what we're doing in Amsterdam, and I hope as well we can expand that further into Europe as well. Even maybe not just us, but other teams. You look at, you still got Paris and Barcelona and Madrid. They're very populated cities in terms of like tourists from around the world going to see him. So as we touched upon, it's just a great opportunity for the game, and hopefully with the IMG back in, we can even try and televise it. We can say market the game on even free-to-air TV. It'd be like we touched upon. It's just a really good opportunity, and I'm hoping to get on that boat next year to Amsterdam as well, because I was quite excited to watch Hull Kingston Rovers in Amsterdam.
Yeah, a couple of things the club were really clear on. They'll still be going to Tenerife for the warm weather camp, and then they'll be in Holland pretty much just for the day for the game. So there won't be an extended period over in Holland. Although I think Willie Peters joked that I think some of the players enjoy a week over in Amsterdam. Whether we'd ever see him again or not is a different question. And they're trying to replicate the Craven Street experience over in Holland. So obviously that lends itself to hopefully a good number of Dutch people out there who are going to come and watch rugby league, but also to the travelling Red Army who no doubt will be going over in vast numbers. I mean, Graham, you touched on it. If you look at the official travel packages, I think they're done through KLM. Of course, we went against our deal with P&O Ferries. You have to be Einstein to put two together and expect that would have been a big feature of this. Unfortunately, it's not. So supporters who want to travel by ferry are now left to sort of book it themselves. And I suppose the cost is the only thing, isn't Graham? Yeah, cost of living crisis and what have you. But things do cost money. I've priced it up just for a weekend over in Amsterdam for a family of four. You won't get much change out of about 800 quid, let alone any spending money or anything like that. So it is a deal do. But like we said, it costs money and you don't need to go if you don't want to. But no doubt, like we joked at the press conference, Rovers could announce a plane on the moon. and somebody'd be looking up space shuttles and how much it costs to hire one. So, you know, wherever Rovers play, there'll be a good number of travelling supporters.
Yeah, and look, if the event also creates some new supporters as well, over on the mainland Europe continent as well, that's a good thing as well to spread the word, spread the reach, and the following, albeit it might be a digital or TV following from abroad as well. But anything we can do to further the game, to further the club reputation. Ben touched on it there about the IMG as well. That'll go down well in terms of, you know, meeting criteria about marketing and broadening our horizons as well. So there's lots and lots of positives with it. My only worry is that I hope they put the right sort of cafe areas in to replicate Craven Street at the Amsterdam game, and that people don't go into the wrong sorts of cafes.
Yeah. Well, who knows what the main attraction might be for a game in Amsterdam? Who knows? And I have it on good authority that next season's Fair shirt will not be a bright orange shirt in honour or tribute to our link up with the Netherlands. It's apparently it's already been signed off, done, sealed, and it'll be something completely different. But yeah, exciting times, and I suppose, Graham, it just further highlights the outlook the club has got in terms of looking beyond HU9 and the East Hull community, which of course is imperative to the club, and it'll always be the most important thing. But like we mentioned, if this club is going to become sustainable, less reliant on Neil Hudgell, we've got to look to new markets to bring in income and investment, and this is another example of that. Yeah,
100%. And I don't think the club would ever lose sight of the fact that the supporters who turn up week in, week out, who buy the merchandise, who buy the season tickets, are the heartbeat of the club. And I don't think they'd ever forget that. But there's no harm in absolutely broadening the horizons and spreading the reach and increasing that revenue generation opportunity as well, whether it's commercial or increased sales, etc. Whatever it is, we've got to do that and be more savvy when it comes to that and exploiting markets that are out there that are potentially untapped at the minute when it comes to rugby league. So if we can get feet in the door first and get fan bases, that do come across and visit, or do buy shirts or buy TV packages or whatever it is that's to do with the club, spreading that and increasing income generation potential has got to be the way forward. We can't just rely on the traditional market of what we've done all the time and rely on people coming to us to hand money over. We've got to go out there and, as the club have been doing, be innovative, be creative with what we're doing and trying to sell the club and the product, but still retain that integrity of looking after the core beating heartbeat of the club, which is the fans at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, that's way down the line, and there is still plenty of rugby league to be played in 2024 with the Lee Leopards up next at Soul Group Craven Park on Saturday. If you are going to the game, be loud and proud. Make sure you back the boys. It's going to be a tough encounter, but an exciting one, I'm sure. A huge thanks to Graham and Ben for joining me for this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is powered by Budget Size Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers.